A question that's commonly brought up in the Drag Race fandom is what is the best season of Drag Race to start with as a new watcher? There's a lot of variation in the answers, and I think you can make a valid argument for basically any season, but I think the one season that still holds up the most today is season 5. And this is for a lot of reasons. Jinx's winter arc is really well paced and easy to root for, the runways become more and more consistent, staple challenges had some of their best performances, and one other main thing that, I can't really remember.
Except for Serena.
I've had it with you. Go the fuck home. I've had it officially.
This is garbage. You, Alyssa. Get her, Jade.
Is belittling something I have made my whole career on. I am talking. Bro, you had rolls all over the place in the back. It was disgusting.
Back rolls.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of drama. Listen, I've built my brand on positivity and love, but the fact that every queen on season 5 was so shady to some extent made the season more entertaining and pushed the narratives wherever they needed to be pushed. There would be some sort of fight happening in each episode, and most of them are still quoted today. Through all the shadiness, we got a really interesting underdog edit with Jinx, but the other main storyline is what I want to talk about today. It involved a feud between two queens, one that transcended the show, and once it was brought to air, nothing was ever the same. I believe there hasn't been a better story told on Drag Race. And with that, welcome back to Game Changers and welcome to the ring, Coco and Alyssa. I feel like at this point, anyone who's even heard of Drag Race has heard the names Coco Montrese and Alyssa Edwards. These two were drag legends prior to ever appearing on the show, but since they went on, they became absolute superstars. The reason they were legends was because of their success in the pageant field, sweeping competitions across the states. They competed against each other a lot during these pageants, but one in particular sparked their feud for the show. But to give you all the context right away would be just a little too easy, so we'll get back to this later. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Helix Sleep. I can't even begin to tell you how amazing Helix is as a company. I just recently moved into my first apartment and I only brought a couple things from my college dorm room and a couple things from my parents' house. So basically, I was starting off at square one, and one of the main things I needed to get was a mattress. My bed is like my comfort space, so when I got the opportunity to work with Helix Sleep, I took it immediately. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and beddings that are customized to your needs and are conveniently shipped right to your door. And even if you don't know where to start, Helix knows that everyone is different, so they have a sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on a couple questions. Just take the quiz, answer a couple questions about your body type, your sleeping habits, whether you sleep with someone else, and then you're matched with your perfect mattress. I was matched with the Luxe Midnight, and let me tell you, it was spot on. Back at my parents' house, I was on the same mattress for about 10 years, and I was nervous to branch out because I felt like I slept in a really weird way. I'm a stomach sleeper, and I could literally do marathons in the night with how much I toss and turn. But since I started sleeping on the Luxe Midnight, I feel like I've had better sleeps than I ever had before. It's a mattress that's about on the medium of the firmness scale, and I was even able to add on the Glaciotex upgrade. Glaciotex is a topper to the mattress that gives you a lot of breathability and coolness during the hot summer months, or if you live in Southern California, basically all the time. I've been sleeping on this Helix mattress since the beginning of October, and I never want to go back. And if you don't think the mattress is for you, you get 100 nights to decide. That's 3 full months to make sure that you love the mattress, and if you don't, they'll pick it up and give you a full refund. There's also a 10-year warranty on the mattress if anything goes awry, and a ton of financing options with flexible payment plans. One of my favorite things is that this mattress ships right to your door for free if you live in the US. That feature just takes so much stress and labor out of the way, and I definitely needed that moving into a new apartment. It's me on a different mic. I forgot to mention that the mattress ships to you rolled up in a box. Don't worry, it's not this gigantic package that you have to deal with. It's so easy to unwrap, unbox, and put straight onto your bed frame. I love my Helix mattress, and I think you would too. If you're looking for a new bed, please check out Helix. Click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/JackFed. This will give you up to $200 off your order and 2 free pillows, and let me tell you, those pillows in the back, they are so comfortable. It is such a great company. They've helped my sleeping habits, and I cannot give them enough praise. So check them out, and now let's get back to the video. Season 5 of Drag Race, along with having some of the shadiest queens, had some of the most talented queens from the show. Names like Detox and Alaska caused some movement in the workroom because they were very established queens, but no two queens made more waves than Alyssa and Coco just by their entrance. Alyssa was the first one to walk in of the two, and right away you can tell she has a made-for-TV personality. She's immediately pinned as the pageant queen of the season, who's done a ton of pageants in her life and has been really successful in that field. We also learn later on on that she has a dance background, so just very versatile and seems to be a threat from the start. We meet a ton of the other queens, and as they think it's about to wrap up,
Oh boys, the diva has arrived. And then walks in Coco Montrese. Oh my God! Alyssa Edwards. What's the story? Alyssa, you want to tell the story or you want me to tell the story?
There's no story.
We haven't spoken 2 years. The pageant tore our friendship apart.
And I feel like I was bamboozled.
Coco was the one backstabbing me behind my back. Game on, bitch. The sequel.
if we're going on editing for the best entrance, nothing will ever come close to this moment. It is so iconic, it grips you right away, and we get introduced to the relationship between Coco and Alyssa. They have some sort of history, but we don't really know what yet. Something about a pageant and Alyssa getting backstabbed in the back, which is very redundant. One thing that I do find interesting that I just kind of want to note is that we don't get a proper intro to Coco. Every queen who walks into the workroom gets a little "my name is blah and I'm from blah blah blah" and da blah blah blah, but Coco doesn't get that. I do think it kind of ruined the setup for who Coco is just a little bit. Obviously we get to know her later on and she's another pageant girl, but without a proper intro, I feel like we miss out on some things. I know they did record an intro and it was probably just scrapped because they knew how gripping the face crack moment was and they just wanted to keep the pacing up. I just think it's interesting to think about. Anyways, right after Coco's entrance, they realize that both of each other are there and then commercial immediately. Cutting off right here leaves the viewers wanting more and you're already invested in the first 15 minutes. So do they give us more? Kind of. I think what makes this narrative so well told is that not all the information is given to us right away. It's paced in such a way that just feels natural for a scenario like this. Other conflicts that happen prior to the show and then are brought up on the show always play their hands way too soon. A lot of the time in the first episode, they say, "So you two have history," and then they hash it out and then it's basically done. Which, if we're being honest, wouldn't happen this way in real life. Coco and Alyssa show a much more realistic approach, and I'll get back into this a little later. The rest of episode 1 does what I believe is best for the show, set up both of these queens as competitors first, rivals second. Rue in the walkthrough with Coco asks what it was like seeing Alyssa here, and Coco said that it threw her off a little bit. But Coco holds strong and says that she just needs to set it aside and focus on the competition. This interaction is important because it sets up later storyline for Coco and also double downs that both of them are there to compete. The central storyline to both of these queens is most definitely their past and what it means for the competition, but by showing other aspects of them this early on, it makes them more three-dimensional and gets us to be more invested. We don't want 100% conflict every single time one of them breathes, we just want the tension of them being in the same room during a competition, and that's what we got. Both episode 1 and 2 they're called safe, episode 2 is strangely devoid of any conflict between these two, but I believe that's for the best. Again, trickling it out to us will cause much more interest rather than dealing with all of it right away or calling back to it every episode. Instead, episode 2 sets both of them up as strong competitors on an equal playing field. They were only safe because they were judged in teams, but each of them got high praise for how they performed in the challenge. Episode 3 is where the ball really starts to get rolling on this storyline. Also, if you guys like my content, please consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Turn on post notifications too, because the sooner you're here, the sooner I can interact with you, and I love doing that. The opener has each of them alluding to the past once again, but not really going into full detail, and especially not talking to each other about it. The mini challenge is coincidentally a pageant themed challenge. How unexpected and random of the showrunners to do that. Coco shades Alyssa. It's a very memorable moment, very entertaining.
She's won several pageants, and unlike Savannah, she's completed all of her reigns.
Coco Montrese decides to throw a little bit of shade to be real cute.
But the big thing to come out of this episode was the payoff to what Coco said back in episode 1. She was thrown off by Alyssa being there, so she underperforms in the challenge. Like, it was pretty bad. Over the course of the competition, Alyssa's presence in their past has been weighing on Coco, and they finally have their talk.
How would you feel if you're standing on stage with a crown on your head, singing your song, and someone yells out, "You ain't the real Miss America anyway"? I almost lost my relationship because of that whole thing.
Well, I lost my whole reputation I'd worked 10 years for. He didn't win Miss Gay America, I did. I'm the very first to get dethroned. Nobody gets dethroned. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a teacher. I'm a mentor. I'm a leader. You got on your Facebook. Hold on. Let me finish. But see, you're doing all that and you're not even being fair to me.
I am being fair to you. I'm listening to you.
Girl, you were saying I'm on the beach drinking a margarita. I'm the one with the crown.
I laid in bed next to my husband and like, God, he's like, what is wrong with you? And I couldn't take it.
And then the tears come out. And the Academy Award goes to
you, Alyssa.
Finally, there's no more vague talk. They address the outcome of the dethroning, they address what they said to each other that was less than stellar, and we're left with the conflict not being resolved at all. One thing that I want to point out is that the way this event is framed, nobody is really in the right or in the wrong. Alyssa has every right to be mad because she technically did win the title, but Coco has every right to take that position if Alyssa couldn't fulfill it. The drama is just such a good balance because both sides have their merits and both queens come off as relatively likable for season 5 standards. I feel a lot of sympathy when Coco cries because she was put in a really weird position, while at the same time I could also believe Alyssa when she says that these are crocodile tears. I don't know who to believe or what side to take, and I think that makes the most interesting drama. Drag Race really just got the perfect storm of conflict that allows merit to both sides. It's something that we hadn't seen before and really haven't seen since. During the critiques of episode 3, Coco breaks down and says that Alyssa is really throwing her off, and that's what happened in the challenge. Rue tells her to keep her eyes on the prize, and after being put in the bottom, Coco is determined more now than ever, as we see in the recap of the next episode. It's explained a little more in Untucked, but after trying to meet each other halfway and not really getting anywhere, both of them are kind of content just leaving the friendship in the past. They want to focus on how they're going to get to the top of this competition rather than focusing on mending a friendship that they think can't be mended at this point. Episode 4, we see another group challenge that is based around dance. With new determination and grit, Coco wins the mini challenge and is a team captain and gets first pick. She could choose anyone, maybe like Jade because they're really she immediately picked Alyssa.
You pick first. Alyssa Edwards. What the?
Gag, shock, gasp. Yeah, it's really smart. In the end, Alyssa is the one to come away with the win, but Coco is the one to truly rise to the occasion this episode. It's a dance challenge, and Alyssa is the best dancer in the room. Coco just established that she wants to set her sight on the prize, so why not choose the most skilled dancer for her team? It's strategy. Every single story beat that could have been hit in a storyline like this on reality TV was hit. The enemies to partners storyline, I never thought I'd see the day, but this is just golden television. It just shows that both of them, but especially Coco, is in it for the win regardless of what it takes to get there, and her performance was honestly pretty great too. You want to know the craziest part? As Alyssa wins the challenge, they hug each other. Perfect. It seems like they have the potential for mending their relationship.
I'm not joking, bitch.
Episode 5 talks us back down from our optimistic high. Coming off of Alyssa's win and a good moment of collaboration, she tries to make a joke in the workroom with Coco about little things. It escalates, and now we know that there's still animosity there. I think if the conflict was resolved in the last episode, it wouldn't be realistic or satisfying. This is just more realistic, and it feels like the show isn't overproducing itself. They can set aside their differences to celebrate a win in a competition, but something about each other just doesn't click for the other person. After this interaction, the heat between Coco and Alyssa never reaches the same heights, but there's still a very consistent storyline. One of the last instances of conflict between these two is in the form of Coco's objection to being paired with Alyssa in the next episode. Regardless of what she says, Detox pairing these two was 1000% a way to screw them over and make good TV. It's super entertaining, and it definitely worked. Mind you, this was right after the back rules fight, so the terms weren't as good. However, what was shown honestly implies growth between these two. By being paired together again, it almost creates a bond as if they're in it together. Like the fact that Detox acknowledges this feud and screws them over, and they're the only two queens that have this experience. It creates this connection of, oh, well, I guess we're screwed together. I hate you, Detox. And the hatred of the pairing continues later into the episode when Detox confronts Coco about calling her out in the challenge.
There's a lot of pressure on you to start this out.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Detox.
Coco doubles down and says that it was a shady pairing. Detox plays this aloof game as if it wasn't her intention from the jump, even though we all know it was her intention to be shady and screw them both over. This is one of the choices that I don't really understand, making it look like Coco was cuckoo. Why did I write that? Making it look like Coco was cuckoo for thinking the pairing was malicious. It was, we all know it was, and Coco shouldn't be called out for playing victim when this is literally just what happened. Regardless, it was another instance of Coco getting in her head over Alyssa and landing in the bottom because of it. Rue again tells her to focus up. Last time it netted her a really strong episode, and this time,
girl, you look like the Black Pee Wee Herman.
Where in the beginning, both Alyssa and Coco started out really strong, by this point, Alyssa has started to break away as the stronger competitor due to being safe more, having a win, and not really letting Coco get to her in the competition. It was clear though that the showrunners wanted to keep this an even battle, and the best way to do that was give Coco a win. She definitely worked for that win and was hilarious in the roast, but I do think it could have also gone to Jinx or Alaska. There was justification for anyone. But by having Coco take the win and putting Alyssa in the bottom, it shows that they're back on equal playing field. Just a side note, I asked in my community tab who should have gone home in this lip sync if it wasn't a double Shantae, and the majority of people said Alyssa. Roxy's performance was extremely influential to the rest of the show, but I honestly don't know if they would have given up the potential Alyssa versus Coco showdown. To me, Roxy did win, but I could see an alternate reality where she leaves in order to continue this storyline. But thanks to Honey and Vivian, we'll never see that reality. It's a double Shantae, they all hug, it's a Disney Channel ending, boom, one of the best episodes of the franchise. Like I touched on a little earlier, the last time the pageant was brought up was in this episode in the roast and the reading challenge. The way they reacted to these jokes, it seems like it's starting to get more lighthearted and just more jokey all around. 2 weeks ago, we saw a huge argument brew at the attempt of a joke, but now Alyssa is being a good sport and Coco is now joking instead of not joking. What are these things that I'm writing in this script? Especially after having the bonding experience of working on another challenge together, again, this just feels realistic. 2 episodes later, after an argument where there was trying to be some joking and now they can actually joke about it, it makes sense to me. The friendship is healing and this is a wonderful sign for these two in real life, but not in terms of the competition. With more lighthearted jokes on the horizon between Coco and Alyssa, Jinx being in the top every week, and Relaska Talks being a strong force of talented queens, it was clear that heavier story beats were trying to be hit at this point. Coco and Alyssa's storyline started out heavy and became light. Jinx versus the world started out light, but now it's getting pretty heavy. And in the challenge, both Coco and Alyssa didn't really do that great, so oh my god, is this it? Is this the lip sync? Nah, they had to get Ivy up first. Yeah, so one more quick tangent, I promise. The last competitor in the competition that I didn't mention was Miss Congeniality, Ivy Winters. I kind of want to make a full video on her, but just for right now, Ivy was a really strong competitor in the competition for most of the run, only faltering in the end because she didn't really have any storyline. She was an amazing seamstress, won a challenge, and could hold her own with the rest of the talent. They could have easily had the Coco and Alyssa lip sync in this episode, but they held off because they were worried that Ivy may perform well in the coming weeks. So just throw Ivy in the bottom and hope that Alyssa and Coco underperform in another challenge. Anyways, Ivy's gone, so now we're left with the most well-known top 6 ever. Coco, Alyssa, Alaska, Jinx, Detox, and Roxy. Only 3 can make it to the end. One storyline is really building while another is really wrapping up. What happens? Episode 9, Drama Queens, is one of the best story transition episodes of the entire franchise. We open with a recap of all the drama with Coco and Alyssa and get shady comments sprinkled throughout once again. They want to prep us for this lip sync because though their relationship is getting better, the rivalry still needs to end in a satisfying way. The other side of the conflict, however, is setting Jinx up for the winner of the week and the frontrunner for the crown. They have been underestimated for the bulk of the competition, even after being in the top for weeks now. The storyline doesn't come out of nowhere because the seeds have been planted earlier by Roxy and Coco and basically anyone who didn't get Jinx. So in the opener, Jinx stands up for themselves, says that they are a competitor to watch out for, and then wins the challenge. While 2 of the people who didn't give her the respect land in the bottom and end their storyline. In the end of the episode, we finally get the Coco and Alyssa lip sync teased to us practically the entire season. And what's nice is that it comes at the right time. I really don't think they could have milked this storyline any longer because it was naturally coming to an end. They were also just the 2 most justified bottom placements, so everything fell into place perfectly. It was an even battle through most of the competition, with queens pulling ahead and then falling behind. Who comes out on top? Coco. I frame most of my video and points around Coco's narrative because though Alyssa is a fan favorite now, more of the focus was on Coco during season 5. It was mostly how can Coco overcome the presence of Alyssa? How can Coco focus and keep her eye on the crown? Things like that. I do think Coco won the lip sync if that matters to anyone. It was amazing, dramatic, ironic, cold-hearted as the lip sync for a potential backstabber. Interesting, producers. Interesting. After Alyssa is eliminated, Coco leaves soon after. They finish their storyline in the most climactic way, and at this point, Coco has assassinated way too many people. They both place extremely well, and that's where it ends. I'll briefly touch on All Stars 2, though I don't really think it adds a ton to the video. The feud had long since passed by the time they were both cast on All Stars 2, so I feel like the producers wanted one of 2 things out of this.
The face crack of the century.
Bitch, that was so 3 years ago.
Either reignite the drama for round 2 or use the elimination of one of them to bolster the run of the other. The latter is what happened, unfortunately. Coco was screwed over in the talent show because she was gonna perform Janet, but they wouldn't let her, so she had to do this old school number that was read by everyone. It was just an unfortunate situation, and with Coco gone early, Alyssa was in uncharted territory. How was she gonna compete with no prior storylines? Well, she's now a fan favorite, so I think she did pretty well for herself. Let's just get Coco back on another All-Star season, please and thank you. Coco and Alyssa show a realistic depiction of seeing someone you had no interest of ever talking to again, plus they're gay, so just make it a little shady. From the jump, they allude to their past, talk behind each other's backs, throw out comments, but don't hash it out right away. It progresses through the season in a natural, human-like way rather than a producer telling them to hash it out from the start. The feud and the stunt casting in general have never reached the same heights as Coco and Alyssa. Casting queens with prior history is honestly such a great idea for the show, but at the same time, I just don't think it's ever going to be done as well. Queens before season 5 had history with one another, but not to the extent of Coco and Alyssa. Since season 5, there have been multiple casting choices that attempt to emulate the scorched path of experience, but they never come close. The most egregious attempt was on season 10 with Ms. Cracker and Aquaria. Ms. Cracker copied some of Aquaria's looks, maybe, I don't know, crazy, oh my god. The conflict just doesn't really match up to this big pageant drama, but they try to play it up in the same way. And beyond that, the way it was dealt with on the show was the drama was explained away in one main episode and one episode of Untucked, and then never really brought up again. And I feel like these two barely interact beyond the first episode too. Just overall, the casting directors went for the stunt, but it didn't even get off the ground. Kita and Anita from Down Under are another example of stunt casting that didn't really go anywhere. They were set up to have this little rivalry, but they were both too nice to actually give it, and Anita left really early. The one that had the most potential to rival Coco and Alyssa would be Derek and India, but we all know how that went. It was so juicy for the one episode Derek was in, but in hindsight, it killed a lot of the potential drama for the season to see her go that episode. Overplaying their hand in the first couple episodes, or queens just not bringing the storyline at all, is the killer for these types of stunts. I think they should still keep attempting these castings because it's one of the only times they can really get away with clear producer meddling. Viewers just accept that it's a possibility because it makes good TV, and people partially accept this because Alyssa and Coco made it work so well in the beginning. This is the first way Coco and Alyssa changed the game. They made such a splash in how conflict would be dealt with on the show, to the point where the showrunners have been itching to reach the same heights. Two of the pairs that were cast to have potential rivalry or conflict ended up having one of them win. And aside from this, I think the feud between Coco and Alyssa can teach the producers a lot about how to do conflict on the show. For how often it came up and for as shady as both of them could be, it remained really fair and a toss-up between both sides. Neither one of them were miscongeniality, but neither one of them were so unlikable to the point where you wanted to root for the other one even if they were in the wrong. It was a very even argument from two people that you equally enjoyed. Coco was called out for playing the victim and not understanding Jinx, but at the same time she created a strong friendship with Jade, defended her, and helped Monica through her issues. I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but Alyssa had the potential to get the villain edit to Coco's hero. She started a lot of the conflict and stirred the pot for sure, but anytime she were to do this, there was some form of justification or leveling of the sides. Alyssa also went out of her way to combat poor language or behavior on the show. They're both just real people who had great interactions with other queens on the show and had a conflict between one another, but it never went below the belt, if that makes sense. And what still amazes me is that this was done in the golden era of Drag Race, the trashiest editing era of Drag Race, where moments are so obviously spliced and taken out of context is where we find the most objective feud of the show. Of course, newer seasons have conflict. Sometimes I think it's done really well, other times I think the queens both come out looking bad. What makes Coco and Alyssa game changers is less about what happened on the show, but more about what it meant for the show. The previous season saw Sharon versus Jeremy, a very obvious hero versus villain storyline that caused Jeremy to get hate until this day. Coco and Alyssa had a feud on or even grander than season 4's, but the reaction wasn't nearly as bad. Did they get hate? Yes, of course, it's the Drag Race fandom, and Coco is especially at risk because of racists. However, the average fan watching this season walks away with a decent perception of both of them. Like I said said at the top of the video, season 5 is my favorite season to show new viewers. When they walk away from the season and I ask them what they thought about Coco and Alyssa, they don't really say they dislike either one of them. And it's because of how they're portrayed and how I think everyone should be portrayed on the show. What I'm saying is that it can be done. Conflict can be done in a manner that leaves each person looking equally right and equally wrong. The showrunners took a lot away from Coco and Alyssa, but over time I feel like they lost sight of what made it so great. A lot of the conflicts since then get the entertainment down, but they don't really leave the queens looking that great. Drag Race sensationalizes drama for the sake of entertainment, and they're completely in their right to do that. But often the strive for entertainment is at the expense of those involved. Coco and Alyssa's show entertainment can be done nearly perfect without burying each person. In recent years, Drag Race has slowly been working to get back to this place, but they should call back to these two game changers to make sure they're telling the story in the best way. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I had a blast making it. We're headed into the holiday season, so I hope everyone's doing good. Spread some love for me. It makes me feel all warm inside. I got a video coming out on Wednesday. Stay tuned for that. Thank you for all the support, and I'll see you soon with another video.